live with Joan of Angels. You are here with me in the Desert Heart Sanctuary, where we paint angels, divine beings, and I am so excited to see you. I have a cousin on, I have Margaret on, I have a Facebook user on. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I just want you to know something. I am just so grateful that I come on here and I get to see my friends, my family, the people that I adore from around the world. There's Deborah. It's just so exciting to me. Let us all know where you're from and know that you are on the Miracle Makers Club tonight. And this is time for miracles. If ever we needed miracles on this planet, okay, that gorgeous blue planet of ours, that planet Earth, the time is now. All right. I mean, no one can argue with me. Let's face it. If you look around, we are a planet that requires and needs miracles from all of us, each and every one of us. And literally, the only thing we can do is kind of hang on, but work on ourselves to be balanced, to be harmonious, and to really be the best self that we can be. And it is hard. So I just have to tell you, to my friends out in Wyoming and everywhere, Florida, that when I play that music, the saints go marching in, okay? I come on this show and I have this vision of a brigade of saints/angels, okay? And we are gathering. We are like getting our wings ready. We are taking off years of challenges and misery and that whole earthly thing that could be a grind, especially in 2020. And we are just getting ready to soar. And when we soar, we start working in a higher realm so that we start to have experiences that I call the miraculous. What is the miraculous? Everyone, I want you to know Tina Marie is in the house. Her birthday is coming up, same as mine, March 16th. So I want everyone, please wish her a happy birthday. She's a March 16th girl, just like me. All right. And there's Canella too. So this is I feel like we're having a Pisces party already. So it really is about being the best we can be and holding on or letting go. Maybe it's about letting go. So even today, I want to share this. So I've been very excited on Mondays, first Monday of the month, 2 miracle things happen. I'm on Steve Weber's show, the American Gumption Show, and he did that great music. I am a saint, okay, coming out, gathering all of you guys, the Angel Brigade, and Shima Moore comes on my show. So I'm on someone else's show, and she's on my show. So it's a big day, right? So this morning happens, and Lord knows I see Steve Weber on my cell phone. It's like I couldn't even place who or what he was. And it wasn't until about an hour and a half ago when I got online and got into my broadcast studio that I realized I had missed his show completely. Had no idea. But that's not the only thing that happened today. And I pride myself on being accountable. I have a Capricorn rising. I do know how to get to places on time. So now I'm looking at my cell phone. Says my chiropractic appointment is 3:30. So I'm all set to leave the house at 2:30. I have it all arranged. I go 3 times a week, guys. It's a lot. It takes me 3 hours to do it. And it's great treatment, but 3 hours is a lot. So I'm all psyched up, 2:30, I'm going to leave, right? I get a phone call at 11:30. I had missed my 10:30 appointment, which I didn't even remember knowing about. Okay, so I was thinking I was the only one, but I read this. And so I'm going to read you this little energy update. And then we're going to do a little mini grounding. And then we're going to bring Shima on. She's going to explain to us why things feel a little bit out of balance. And I was mentioning it to Shima, and she said I was like the 3rd friend of hers. You had that kind of, I don't know. Is anyone else out there having it? Like any of you guys having those kinds of days? And today is a 9-day, which means letting go of things that don't serve. But I kind of thought the show served, and I was thinking that the chiropractor served. So, oh my goodness. Light worker energy update. This is for you, me, Shima, and all of us, okay? I'm going to take a deep breath in first, though. All right, good. And then let it all out. And then again. Yes. Now I feel the energy shifting. Okay. So many lifetimes are at play this life, right? Right. And they are this year. It is true. Many lifetimes. Okay. So many light workers are being called to go offline during this current energetic grid to recalibrate. And that's what I was feeling like, oh my goodness, I have to recalibrate. Something is like not set properly, and the need to recalibrate during these times. So I was relieved to realize I wasn't the only one. So to stop consuming, hold space and honor the call to go deep within. So this is really the message is, okay, this is the month of March. It's a Piscean month. Shima is going to explain this to us, but going within. So some of you may find yourself feeling sick or needing to rest or sleep more than usual. There are blessings and new directions that need to be given to you. So you need to be more present to receive those downloads. So you can receive that information. So then rather running around out in the world, blessings, beautiful Patricia, rather than running out there, especially if you're having whatever I'm going through, where the thing, I could hardly believe it. Okay. When I sat here tonight, it was like, oh my goodness, look at all that. Okay. So now it's time for your and mine cosmic realignment. So guys, it's time for a cosmic realignment, which is true in the month of Pisces. So disconnect, take some time away from your earthly spiritual work as you are being called to work on multiple dimensions as old programs and old energies collapse. Okay, you may feel a little lost at this time, but know that you will be given gifts of codes to understand and work on new realities for when you come back online. Oh, there's even more of my old friends. Golnaz slipped in there too. Beautiful. So this is a beautiful time to recalibrate. And first of all, to acknowledge you need a recalibration, which I've realized because it's time on the physical, according to a clock, seems to have, I don't know, gone in another direction. Okay. So working on this, and like an arrow, you will fly forward as a whole new person in full force after your downtime. So the key for this month really is really feeling into your energetic field and allowing yourself to disconnect. And it's true. I was all gung-ho, build my Instagram account, my YouTube account, my Facebook account. Now, honestly, I don't care. I literally have come to this place where I don't know if I even want to look at my Instagram ever again. And I come to Facebook because all of you guys are on Facebook, and I want to do my Facebook lives and love on you and share all that. But honestly, it's like, oh, so am I the only one? I'm going to look at your comments, by the way. Want to see what's going on here. Oh, yeah. So there's Canella. Oh, yeah. Knowing the energy and time is to let go of what's not resonating with me. Yes. Hallelujah for cosmic recalibration. And guys, I think that that's what we should call this, cosmic recalibration. And that's the beauty, by the way, of having a dear friend, an astrologer, like my dear friend, Shima. Because as I was explaining to Shima about my morning, she was already calibrating it in her head. She knew exactly what was going on. So this is my dear friend, Shima Moore. She is what we call an astrology curator, one that actually does all. I was explaining to her, I was listening to her the astrology panel on Conscious Life Expo, and I needed a pen and paper. It was so complicated, you know, and she was explaining to me that's why she is a curator, right, Shima? What is that?
Exactly, Joan. Hi, darling. Yeah, so you know what I realize? I love astrology. I love it. I spend I spend a good deal of time sort of tuning into what's happening because, 2020, oh my God, that was such a crazy year. And there is a way to understand it. It's not as much of a mystery, especially to astrologers, because we were kind of like gearing up for something. We knew it was coming. You don't know exactly how it's going to manifest, but you can see it's there. And astrology is about cycles. And it's about, today is a new cycle, right? Today starts the month, a 30-day cycle of the
Uh-huh.
moon. All right.
That's
So we have 12 moons. We just had a full moon, Saturday, I think it was. And I mean, they go so fast, right? Life is really like that. But we've moved into March is going to be a gentler month.
oh my God.
So take a breath. We've come
Because
out of it. We've come out of a lot of stuff. And there's a few things going on, but mostly there's a lot of wonderful things ahead. And Pisces, wow, I realize I know so many Pisces these days. A few of my friends who come to, I teach a class called Paneurythmy. That's a sacred dance class out of Bulgaria that just came to my life, and I was asked to teach it, and I love it. I didn't even know the spiritual implications of it when I started teaching it. But two of the people who come to that class are Pisces. Suddenly there's like all this Piscean energy around me, and I love it. And I realized for myself, I have my sun in what's called the 12th house of my chart. Now, when I first discovered that, because I had the wrong time for my chart for 30 years, so suddenly one day I realized it was the wrong time and everything changed. So you want to know your chart, okay?
Right.
And I'm gonna recommend that you can reach out to me. I'm happy to send you your chart. You can send out to Shima, Shima Divina.com, Shima Divina at Gmail. Happy to send you your chart. You can go to my website, which is in the process of being updated, shimamore.com. And there are a number of sites online that you can also go and get free sites.
Did I spell it right? I want to.
Divi.
Oh boy. Okay. Shima, Divi,
IVI.
and
Yes. Divina.
Divina at gmail.com.
Yes. Perfect.
All
Okay.
right. So Shima does.
I want you to get your chart. And I will send you the sort of the legend of what the symbols mean and things like that. But knowing, you don't have to get into it like I'm into it. But if you go to Your Astrology Curator on Facebook, I post there, I transcribe a lot of things, and I put up a number of different astrologers that I like. I put up their videos and transcribe what I feel is really important for people to know about, so that you don't have to go everywhere. There's more and more astrologers these days. I was just reading about that, how a few of the astrologers that I check into, they were saying, wow, since 2017, there's been sort of this explosion of astrology because people want to know.
Yes.
This year, 2020, more people into astrology than ever before. So that's why I had at the Conscious Life Expo, I had a track of 3 astrologers that I like. Now, what I like to do is bring in people, because every astrologer has a different point of view on the same thing. But you start to really, you know what I mean? I'll go to a talk with an astrologer that I love, but he doesn't talk about anything that I expect him to talk about.
Right.
What he talks about is relevant, and it's relevant for that moment in time. And you'll find that each astrologer has a different perspective, like the elephant. You know the story of the elephant, the blind men, 6 different blind men, and they feel the ear, and oh yes, it feels like paper, and oh yes, it's the leg feels like a trunk, and oh the tail, oh an elephant is like a snake, and oh the trunk, oh it's like a vine on a tree or a branch on a tree. Astrology is kind of like that. There's all these different facets, and after studying astrology for probably got into astrology. Well, I definitely got into astrology over 40 years ago, but about 30 years, it doesn't matter if you don't know your birth time. I mean, it does matter. If you know your birth time, that's fabulous, right? But if you don't, there are things you could do as well. You don't need to know it for everything. Still, you can get so much more than if you just look in the newspaper at what's your sun sign. That's a very commercial thing that came out sort of when they wanted to sell magazines, actually. And they figured,
Or the love and romance, right?
well, that's when you sell magazines.
Your life. Yeah.
You
And
tell
Shima,
people,
just everyone should know that Shima actually was the publisher, right? What was the name of your magazine in the 80s?
the 90s Perceptions magazine, which was, get this, government, health, and metaphysics.
Right.
Strange bedfellows, I know, but you know, the reality is you need to, you know, it's kind of that broad spectrum. And back then, this was in the 90s, right? So a lot of the stuff that's going on now, you know, it was going on in the 90s, you know, a lot of the conspiracy stuff and all of this. And so I was the editor. So I always had to take a breath. I actually, anyway, that's a whole story. But to bring that information out in a way that was relatively impartial, right? I really believed in journalism from the point of view of being in that fourth wall, you know, being able to really share it without having to put my take on it so much. Anyway, as an astrologer, so I consider myself an astrological educator because I think that everyone can learn enough about astrology to dig a little deeper if they want to, and to go to sources that can bring you comfort in terms of what's happening. It's like Joan today, like what's going on? Well, you know, most people know about Mercury retrograde. Oh, Mercury retrograde, don't buy a car, don't sign a contract, don't do all these things. Well, a lot of people don't know that Mercury still is, for all intents and purposes, kind of retrograde. It's still in its shadow. It went.
You know, that I thought Mercury retrograde was over when it began. I breathed the science that I think I've survived Mercury retrograde. And then I discovered it had just begun. And that's how I kind of feel now. I'm still in it. I don't know about anyone else. I'm still in it.
Well, it is Pisces, and Pisces is ruled by Neptune. Okay. In traditional astrology, back in, you know, because astrology, now, okay, I want to share something with you, if I may. I came across a book recently, and I came through it through one of my astrologer friends online. The name of the author is Dr. Richard Tarnas. And I actually met him in the 90s. I flew from LA to San Francisco to do a symbols and cycles conference with he and Dr. Stanislaus Grof. Now, they're both Harvard graduates, but they're astrologers because they learned in doing their work actually on psychedelic research. They were from Harvard back in the time in the 60s. And they wanted to find out why two people doing the same dosage of a very pure substance would have such a different experiences, and also why the same person would have different experiences at different time. Well, what was that? Why was that? Well, none of the psychological, psychiatric kinds of programs that were available, nowhere in the world could they find anything to give any valid answers to that.
Mhm.
They were at Esalen. Rick Tarnas actually went from Harvard to Esalen to study with Stan Groff because he valued the work that he did. And somebody came to Esalen and said, "Oh, you should try astrology transits." And they were like, "Oh, right, astrology transit, ha ha ha," because let's face it, the academic world, has been taught that astrology is superstition and all this stuff. No, no, no. Anyway, they found that in fact it worked, and it worked every single time.
It worked, meaning
They
that the
they could find out why someone had a great experience this day and a not so great experience this day, or why
huh,
this person and this person on the same day had such very different experiences. Amazing work, right? Now, Rick Tarnas is a professor at the California Institute of Integral Studies in San Francisco, a very respected um, university that has different kinds of, more Jungian in its approach.
Mhm.
Anyway, he wrote a book. He wrote a book called Cosmos and Psyche.
Right?
And right, are you familiar with that book? Have you ever
No,
heard of it?
no, but I like the title.
Well, it's a tome. It's about this big, and
Uh-huh.
I have it actually also. Um, and he started writing an introduction to it. And in the introduction, it started becoming 4 chapters, and he realized, oh my God, he had a whole other book. And this is the book that he wrote. And it's called Passion of the Western Mind. And
Can
this
you hold
book,
it up a little more? Just hold it up one more time. Can someone write this down? The Passion of the Western Mind. Okay.
by Dr. Rick Tarnas, Understanding the Ideas That Shaped Our World View.
Got
Okay.
it.
And I gotta tell you, I found myself suddenly transported to decades ago when I was in college at the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut. And I had like fire in my soul. It reignited. I remember back in those days, Socrates and Plato, and whose beliefs were actually so pivotal to the world, even to this day. And I first came I first came across them in classes. I was an education major at the time, and it was an education class. And I remember Edukar, what to lead out was what they used to talk about. It was like we were born whole. We had all of this information already inside of us. Education wasn't about putting in, it was about leading out. Well, when I
Yeah.
started reading this book again, oh my
Mhm.
God, I found myself back in that place of, this has been in my consciousness for years, right? And suddenly I'm reading this book, and which he wrote for the academic world, to little by little do what we did in Perception magazine, which was to give them little dropper fills of information that maybe they didn't think that they were open to, or they weren't open to, but little dropper fills, a little drop here, a little drop there. And then suddenly they started going, oh, well, that's interesting. Let me dig a little deeper. Well, one of the things that came across in this book was the fact that for thousands of years, 2,000 years, this was like 5th century BC, okay? So we're talking like 2,500 years ago. Well, 2,000 years before that, right? So we're almost 5,000 years ago. The only thing in the world was just as crazy then as it is now. The world was chaos. There was still sort of like humans are human. Politics was politics. It was the same then as it is now. You think we would learn, really, on some levels, humanity hasn't really learned a thing, right?
Didn't you say last month it was the same energy as the revolution, the Civil War,
There's
the
all that, but we're talking now, we're going back. So we're going back
okay.
5,000 years. Now think about this. The thing about that time, the philosophers, the sages, the prophets, all of these very high esteemed
The
people,
Renaissance. The
But
Renaissance
boy,
of
we're talking about
art.
Babylonia, Mesopotamia. They
Wow.
looked up at the sky
Right.
and they saw this perfect harmony, this something they could count on. They looked at the stars, and through the years, the stars were the only thing that really had this harmony and peace. And they saw the sky as the divine, it was like divinity. It was like the word of God. It was like, if you could understand the sky, you could understand God. Oh my God, right? Well, what they discovered was that and Plato, so this is like 2,000 years later. So they've been
Right.
looking at this and trying to figure it out all these years. They only used 7 planets at that time because they didn't have the telescopes to see further. So Saturn was the furthest planet out. Satan, third dimensional reality, was as far as we could go, right? Saturn is our the teacher. Saturn, it can be, Saturn holds us back. You can't go past Saturn, right? So this last year
Limits.
has been limits, exactly. This year has been 2020. Saturn and Pluto come together, authority.
Restrictions. All the restrictions, authority, control.
Pluto, death, right? And transformation. Ultimately, all of the planets have a higher purpose, right? They are all there. Even Pluto, who's like, death and destruction. We discovered Pluto in the 1930s. New planets are discovered when it's time. And it's time because something is going on in the world that humanity is ready to connect with.
Are you saying there's a new planet coming?
Well, there's been a lot of new planets coming. Chiron came 50 years ago. We've got a lot of asteroids. I can't really tell you.
Okay.
I really can't tell you about that. But
All right.
but the
we
thing
do
was,
have transformation coming. So if 2020 was restriction, what is 2021?
well, 2021 is okay. So in 2020, in January,
Yeah.
January, I remember this very well. I was in the hospital. I wasn't expecting to be there.
You
Kind of like
were.
in my head, how did this happen? But there I was. So Friday, January 11th, January 10th was an eclipse. Eclipses change things.
Yes. Yes. The last year, January 2020.
And then on Saturday, Uranus, which had been direct, a lot of the outer planets, the transcendental planets, the trans-Saturn planets, the ones that we started seeing when we got the telescope, right? Which is Uranus, which is an 84-year cycle, Neptune, which is a 164-year cycle, and Pluto, which is a 248-year cycle. So you can see they're further out. They take longer to go around, right? So none of us are ever going to see a Pluto return. Like every year we have a birthday. That's a solar return. The sun returns exactly to where it is at our time of birth. And Joan is coming up to her solar return. And your solar return this year is actually on March 15th, because your solar return starts at the moment that the degree that the sun returns to at your time of birth. And I ran your chart, and it is 11 o'clock in the morning, 11:37 a.m. In Desert Hot Springs is your
Hot Springs, really?
And is your solar return, and your sun is in the house of career. It's in the 10th house, so it's a good house, and we'll talk about that, because this sets you up for the next year. But what's happening now is last week the sun went into Pisces, so suddenly, all right, last year we had Saturn, Pluto, and Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is a 12-year cycle, but like the inside of a clock, all the timings of all of these cycles all kind of like clicked, right? And they clicked in the beginning of January, 23 degrees Capricorn. So you want to look in your chart. Where's 23 degrees Capricorn? And what was happening in that area of your life? So if you have your chart, you have the Rosetta Stone. You can find out all of the stuff that's happening in your life. Now, I'm not saying,
You need the map too.
What's that?
You need the chart, but you also need the understanding, the roadmap of what all those planets mean and all.
No, you don't. You do not. You need to have your map, and then you need to listen to somebody who knows what they're talking about. And when they're talking about something, you start to find more and more that you understand. And so when somebody says 23 degrees Capricorn, well, okay, you know this is the symbol for Capricorn, and there's 30 degrees in a sign, and there's 23 degrees. Oh, so that's in this area of my life is being affected. For you last year, it was in your first house. It was all of the stuff of me, your identity is first house. So I use what's called full sign house system. Now there's 31 different house systems. So a lot of modern astrologers use Placidus or Pope or Porphyry, or there's just so many different, many of them were monks. Many of them were monks because that's what the church did until the church decided it was giving too much power to people. And in the olden days, you know, astrologers didn't read charts for the average person. In fact, charts weren't like they are now. They read the omens in the sky for the kings to let them know if there was going to be war, to let, you know, because it was people of nobility. It wasn't like the common person. That didn't happen until much, much later. Okay. We didn't even think that we thought that the earth was the center of everything. Well, you know, we read astrology as it is, but I had one of my astrologers on last week at the Expo showed a three-dimensional image from the sun and was able to show each of the planets and the levels, and it was astounding really to watch from that perspective. And today, with computers, all of this stuff is available. So why I say to you, you don't have to know, you don't have to learn astrology like I learned it. I learned it, you know, I learned it from a book. I was like, what does that mean? And oh my God, it was so complicated, but I was resolute. I didn't know why. It wasn't until I discovered that my midheaven, that point of the highest point of my chart, right, has Aquarius on it. Aquarius is the sign of, guess what? Astrology. It's, you know, other things as well, but that's a big part of it. And when I had my chart redone, suddenly Uranus, the planet that rules Aquarius, was on my rising. So suddenly, oh my God, here's astrology in the most important part of your chart. Here's astrology in another most important part of your chart. So it was sort of a destined thing, I feel like, you know, so that's my passion. I'm not saying it has to be your passion, but I'm saying get the treasure map to who you are. And you can go online, you can go on YouTube, and you can listen to someone, and you can kind of like look at your chart, and little by little, it starts to make sense. And you have a key to the answers in your life that are just most astounding. So we are now in March. We have 3 weeks left to this astronomical, astrological year. Now, one of the things that astronomers and astrologers, they used to be taught in universities together, right? But then in the 333, the Council of Nicaea, it was like 300s. Constantine, they like threw astrology out. They was like, oh no, astrology is no good anymore. Can't do it. So anyway, we've sort of like been coming back ever since. It's been an interesting thing with astrology. I forget where I was. Let me think so a second.
Oh, you talked about 3 planets, and it's Pisces.
Okay, yes, okay. So we are headed now
gotta hear this.
Okay, so we are headed now to a whole new cycle. We're headed now to the moment in time and space that both astronomers, science, and astrologers, metaphysics, both agree on. And that is based on the seasons. Tropical astrology, which is the kind of astrology that I do. There's also Vedic astrology, which is Indian, which is uses a whole different thing. They get to truth their way. You know, it's like it's an and universe. One is not good, one is not bad. It's just different languages. Okay, so the language that I use and many astrologers use is tropical. And on March 20th of 2021, we begin a brand new astrological, astronomical yearly cycle. And we begin that on the very first moment of spring.
Okay, and that's the beginning of Aries again then.
And that's 0 degrees Aries. And guess what?
What?
It's the equal day and equal night. It's not an arbitrary thing. If you look at the North Pole and the South Pole spinning around in the sky, it's the furthest north and the furthest south. Okay, so we have more. So we're going now towards equal. The rest of the world is equal. Equal day and equal night. The equinox means equal. Come summer, then we have the solstice. That's another 0 degrees. That's 0 degrees Cancer. Come fall, we have what? 0 degrees Libra. Come winter, we have 0 degrees Capricorn. Now, last winter, 2020, at 0 degrees Capricorn, we also had a very other interesting thing. Saturn and Jupiter, which we could actually see visually with our eyes because you could see as far out as Saturn, remember? Without a telescope. So we could see all year. If you knew the sky, you could have seen last year, which I watched all year, Saturn and Jupiter coming closer.
Yes, yes.
Coming closer.
The moon for a certain period of time. Yes,
yes, with the moon. And then square them was Mars, right? Because Mars was in Aries and they were in Capricorn. So that was square. So that energy
to us. What does all this do?
What was last year? You tell me. What did it do?
Well, people, it was quite a challenge. It brought out really our inner strength and courage, and really people had to face their fears for sure and really dive in and say, okay, who am I? How am I going to handle this?
It pressed us to the max.
Yeah.
Started the very first case of COVID was in January when Saturn and Pluto came together.
Well, I think we had the third case of COVID when you came here after the Expo.
That was January, Joan. That was January, right? Yeah. Remember? Well, and then every time. So last year we had Jupiter and Pluto conjuncting, and every time Pluto and Jupiter came together, there was an expansion in COVID. It happened. So we could find
every time Jupiter and Saturn came together.
No, Jupiter and Pluto, because last year it was
the numbers would go up.
Yes, the numbers went up from Jupiter, expansion, growth, and Pluto, death. Just transformation. It's many things, but
so they come together and the numbers
came together and the numbers went up. Okay, so astrologers knew this was coming for years before it came. They knew because the plague. I started watching the other day on the History Channel or something about the plague. Very interesting. Very interesting. I only watched one episode. There were 23 episodes or something. I think I may go back and watch it. fascinating. I'm finding history to be so fascinating. Astrology, one of the things that Stan Groff said, he said, astrology is like the Rosetta Stone. Any place you focus it on, whether it's history, political, social, personal, it opens, it helps you to decipher the language of what's happening. Exactly,
It does.
Jean Marie. As above, so below.
It
That's
does.
what it is. As within, so without.
They're sharing. We're happy people are sharing.
Yeah.
Yes, as above, so below. So let me ask you specifically, Shima. Okay.
Yeah.
So yes, 2020, we all lived it. Okay. And the
Yes.
interesting thing is we all have a sort of common history. First time in forever that the whole planet has a shared experience here, COVID.
It was the
But
worst year most people have ever experienced. Yes.
but what is the indication for this upcoming year? Here, you keep telling
Okay.
me March is going to be gentle and good, and so I don't
Well,
know.
okay. So here's the thing. So in December, first day, 0 degrees Capricorn, winter.
Yes, that's
Of
the
all
day.
times. I mean, just think about this. Think about this. Saturn and Jupiter came together at 0 degrees Aquarius exactly on that day, which in itself is a big day, like a momentous day. But this thing happened exactly on that timing. Okay, so we have the whatever happened in Washington. That was when Mars and Uranus conjuncted.
Okay.
Okay. Mars, planet god of war, and Uranus, unexpected breakthroughs. The lightning planet, the sky god, right? And so here's the thing in terms of what's going on in where am I here? Okay, there's a couple of things I want to talk about.
Oh,
Okay,
good.
before we get to that, because I want to really talk about specifically about March. But one of the things I want to just touch on is we have the vernal equinox coming up. Okay, and so the vernal equinox is March 20th, and what happens at that point is that there's a crack in the Earth's magnetic field that allows more light to come to Earth. Okay. Now,
Right.
it is an important time to be. Oh, what happens at that moment of time at sunrise? The galactic center is directly overhead. So one of the things I want to recommend that people do, there's so much information, really. The hardest thing I find is that's why I have my site on Facebook. Eventually I'll make a website out of it, but it's just the easiest thing. I'm not that technically inclined. So this way I can get the information out. All right. So throughout time, whether you're talking about Stonehenge, whether you're talking about Chichen Itza, whether you're talking about all of these places, they were all built to watch the equinoxes and the solstice. And the solstice, the equinox, March 20th, there's beams of light come to Earth, and they pour into the Earth's the Earth's magnetosphere. Okay, so it's the Earth's magnetosphere, the solar wind, and the sun's coronal mass ejections. Okay, this all happens sort of like at one time. But the most important thing is that what they have discovered, and this is in scientific labs, clairvoyance, clairsentience, clairaudience, extrasensory perception abilities, that when the galactic center was overhead, and during this time, it was increased 400%. So,
Okay.
so
Everyone, you're
effective use of everyone's psychic talents.
Mhm.
Go out, okay, to increase your psychic abilities. So if you have intention to go out on the morning, sunrise, it's not so early, it's like 7:12 in California, here in Mount Shasta. Go out, watch the sunrise, be conscious of what is going on. The galactic center, just like 27 degrees Sagittarius, directly overhead. There is energy coming from the galaxy. There is energy coming for humanity at this very special time. There's no mistaking the fact that you have 0 degrees Capricorn and Saturn and Jupiter coming together. There's no mistaking the as above, so below energy that's happening. And you can plug into it consciously. Set your intentions. What do you want to see on the planet? We can change reality. Now, is it going to happen bang, bang, boom like that? Probably not. But it is happening.
But I feel my crown chakra tingling as you're speaking about that. This concept that the galactic center is right overhead, right? So that's pure source energy coming through. And so does that happen every year or just this year? Just need to know. I want to think it's this year special.
This year is very special. This is like extra powerful portal of light, doorways of intention and possibility. Mm-hmm. Okay. This particular time of year is an important time of year. It is always an important time of year. We are right now, if you look, if you watch the astrology seminar that happened at Conscious Life Expo, kind of like shows there's like a 20, we're talking about a month, right? A month is 30 days. A year solar cycle is 365 days. Saturn, 29, your Saturn return, 29 and a half, 30 years. Jupiter, 12 years. Each one of the planets. Chiron takes 50 years. Uranus, 84 years. If you meet somebody who's 84 years old, have them tell you their story. They have a story to tell. If they're not like into like, oh, I got all the aches and pains in my body. Oh my God, life is like, if they're in a place of consciousness, you want to listen. They have wisdom to share. Okay. Neptune, we're never going to meet somebody 164 at this particular point. But right now, Neptune, which is the ruler, the modern day ruler of Pisces, is in Pisces. So it's that much stronger, okay? And right now the sun is in Pisces this time of year. So we're at the ending of the cycle, Pisces. Mm-hmm. This week, Venus is going to go into Pisces, and Venus loves being in Pisces. Venus is what's called exalted in Pisces. Your solar return chart this year, Joan, has Sun and Venus together in Pisces. That's lovely. It's really beautiful.
So my destiny cards have been all those hearts for the last few months.
It's beautiful.
Hearts and hearts.
Yes.
Well, so we have a few minutes. You really have to give us the highlights now.
Okay. So, okay. So we're all systems a go right now.
Great.
The weight lifted off of our shoulder. Mars is going to go into Gemini. It's been in Aries and it's been in Taurus for like the year, right? It's just been quite a year. Mars has caused a lot of problems. But Mars is going into Gemini. So Mars, the beginning of March, beautiful. Okay. So that's March 3rd. March 4th, Mercury, communication, and Jupiter, they love to be together. Perfect time for writing, communicating with people. That's March 4th. Neptune, imaginative, is highlighted this month 3 times. It's connected with the Sun, March 10th, our vitality, Venus, March 13th, which is what we love, and Mercury on March 20th, right? So the Pisces new moon is March 13th. So it's right before your birthday. It's made for visionaries and lovers. And it conjoins beautiful visionary Neptune and sweet loving Venus. Okay. Fantasy theme is emphasized again. when Mercury enters Pisces on March 15th. So it's on your solar return. Mercury enters. So it's right before. Yours is like 29 degrees, 47 minutes. So it's not quite there, but.
So it's going to be calming for the first few weeks. Nothing dramatic.
Yes, mark your calendar. Okay. On March 23rd. March 23rd is a challenging moment. Okay. Mercury and Mars, Mercury communications, is squaring in conflict to Mars, the god of war. Now, this is the third and final time that they're going to be having this experience, but it started, guess when it started? January 6th. It was a play on January 6th.
So in other words, are you saying that the riots that happened at the Capitol were actually, you could see it in the astrology?
Yes.
Me. The god of war met Mercury.
And Mercury, communication, anger, right? And so during the impeachment, Mercury was retrograde. So it was replaying everything. Well, what happened? This was happening. Mercury was squaring Mars again, February 10th. And what was happening? All the videos were being shown of what happened January. So March 23rd is going to cross over. They're going to have this for the final time. So what's going to happen? We don't really know. But thankfully, March 25th, which is which is soon after that, Venus and the Sun conjunct with Chiron, which is a healing energy.
Okay, so something dramatic will happen. We'll all kind of feel that potentially this energy, but there'll be a resolution into a more peaceful, harmonious a few days later.
Yes.
And saying that it's not going to be this contentious after that because the God of war, this is good news, guys. Thank God you're on, because honestly, I'm not sure how there's this part, and I'm not sure about all you guys out there, but it's like, how much more can we take of all this? So I'm happy that there's some resolution. Shima, this has been wonderful. I can hardly believe we've been on this long. Is there anything you want to leave us with as we wrap up? Anything you want to tell everyone? You want them to reach out to you for their charts? What do you want?
Well, I would recommend, if you enjoyed some of this, reach out to me. Do check out your astrology curator. As I say, my website is really it's in process of being upgraded. But, I'm really into the research of it, and I love to teach it, and I'd love to bring the information to you. I don't want to be, anyway, that's what I love to do. I love to empower people. That's what my website's about, empowering you. And that's how I look at astrology.
Tell everyone again, this is your group, right? What is your group on Facebook that you have?
It's called Your Astrology Curator. And it's a public group, so anybody can join it.
Your Astrology Curator. You guys are listening to one of my dearest friends. Shima usually comes down in March to stay with me after the Conscious Life Expo. It didn't happen this year, but I think you guys would get to see us together up in Mount Shasta. She's kind of talking a good story to get me up there to the top of the mountain with her. So check her out, and she does offer a free astrology chart. Definitely, it's worth reaching.
And a little mini reading.
A little what?
A little mini reading report.
A little mini reading. So having been, I've been good friends with Shima since I met her in 2005. I can or that was 2004 rather. And I can highly vouch for her and her work, and also her years of experience. I mean, she's one of the co-founders of Conscious Life Expo, which is the largest conscious expo in the country, maybe even the world, I don't know. And she's going to come out here. We are going to be doing some astrology conferences out here too. So
I just love it.
Yeah, look at her. She's a walking astrology marvel miracle. She's going to be on with us, guys. Let us, give us some good feedback, but she's going to be on with us the first of every month, which means that next month, when we're already hot and heavy in Aries, she'll kind of give us a perspective. And then the month after, when we're moving into Taurus, she's going to keep bringing in these perspectives. So be sure to have all your questions. All right, sweetie. Guys, I'm going to let Shima go for a few minutes, and I'll see you soon. Good. And now, oh my God, I'm so excited. Just to distill astrology is a little challenging. I started off studying it also in my teens and in my early 20s. And, those days you couldn't do it. There were no computers. So you had to manually look in this ephemeris and, get your numbers right. And it was very complex, but extremely powerful and revealing, especially the psychological, the emotional, the underlying currents of what is going on, not just for us, but listen, I find it very fascinating that January 6th, the god of war, was present on the horizon. Okay, I think that's really good to know. I think it's good to know that the god of war is coming back and we can hold that energy of peace and harmony. These are only potentials. And so when we know, what things can unfold and look like, we can hold and ask for the greater good of all concerned. And remember when I got on, I said that I love that song, calling all, when the saints go marching in, when the saints go marching in. Why? Because we're calling the angel brigade. Why? We're calling the miracle makers, the light beings, those who know they have a passion and a purpose. If you can see yourself literally gathered in this band of angels, this band of saints, and we are here to raise the vibratory frequency. We are here to shift the energy of the planet to light, to peace, to harmony. And we do it by really bringing together all that information on who we are. How does all this sit with me? How do I step into my personal power? How do I unfold that which I came to do, to step into my personal alignment, to, what does all that mean? And so work like Shima's, work like mine, to step into what your destiny is, it is important. And I see these times as really personal empowerment, full steam ahead, meaning that it is now the time to really feel into who you really are and how you want to show up. How do you want people to see you? Okay. How do you want to unfold your life, your world, your relationships, your business, even in your home? The last few weeks I've been, furiously shifting the house. The energy, it's like the energy is coming with such a whoosh. I can just clear it out and I can feel more movement. So, but it's all about this going within and becoming stronger than we were, becoming more of that woman or man or person that you've always known that you can be. That's what we stand for. So I hope you join me in the Miracle Makers Club. Walk the miracle path with me, awaken to your destiny. That is the link to it. I think I'm going to put it right here for you. Untamed Club is part of Spirituality Gone Wild. And when you join the Miracle Makers Club, within the Spirituality Gone Wild, you also have access to all the other co-creators who are extreme light being teachers and leaders, all in the process of helping each and every one of us open up to our light. All right, guys, I'm going to see you all next week. Thank you. Share this out. Share it with your friends, your peeps. We are on the path of it is time for miracles. Time for a miracle for me. Time for a miracle for you. Time for a miracle for our people and for each and every one of us. Have a blessed week, and I will see you next week. You've been live with Joan of Angels here in the Desert Heart Sanctuary, where we bring in messages from the divine, messages of hope and inspiration, and we learn how to align our body, mind, and spirit for miracles. Have a fantastic week, friends. See you next week.